Thanks for watching Roland Digs It. I'm Roland and I am very guilty. I'm guilty of being a hater. And what did I hate? Well, I hated Swatch. I hated them for about a year. In fact, the main reason that I hated Swatch, and by the way, I've collected Swatch. I've had many Swatch watches over the years. I still have about 3 or 4 rotating through my collection. We'll discuss that in a second because that has increased. But I have always loved Swatch. And the reason I hated them for about a year, and this was a couple years ago, was one reason, and that is
The MoonSwatch is MoonSwatch watches.
the MoonSwatch. Sorry, I just wanted to be part of the group. They were all doing it, so I figured, I wanted to also. So, the MoonSwatch, and why did I hate it? It wasn't because Swatch decided to do something style-wise that I didn't like. I liked the way it looked. I thought the MoonSwatch looked pretty dang killer. It was a very nice-looking, different take on what Swatch has always done. It looked a little bit like a Speedmaster, but still was a bit different. I didn't like the fact that Swatch decided to release it in a way that was just a complete cluster F. I think that they did a bad job in releasing it. They promoted the heck out of it, but then when they released it, they made it so unavailable to some stores only getting like 5 or 10 watches that people were in line for hours and hours not knowing that they were never going to get a chance to get one. Then it was made out of their bioceramic material. If you're not familiar, if you look at Watch's collection, if you go to their website and you look at their collection, you're going to see a bunch of their different watches are made out of bioceramic, and that's the big bold ones. They're terribly cheap looking, and they feel even cheaper when you hold them in your hands. And so I was thinking, all right, bioceramic. It's another stupid name for just cheap plastic. And then they released it with a quartz movement rather than Swatch's System 51 movement, which is an automatic movement. And then they priced it at like $280. And not only do they price it at $280, but because all of the freaking flippers and all the dealers and all the other YouTubers that get their first hands on everything because they have a bazillion subscribers, those watches were allocated and gone, which means you had to go onto the gray market, eBay and Facebook marketplaces and other places and get the Swatch at a crazy marked up price. $500, $600, $700, $800, $900, $1,000 for a MoonSwatch. So all those things kind of made me think, this is terrible. Jump forward about a year, I finally broke down and I ended up getting a MoonSwatch. I got a Mission to Mars, and these are real because there's a ton of knockoffs out there. So be very careful. If you're going to get a MoonSwatch, try to get it from someone you trust or get it directly from the Swatch store. Got a Mission to Saturn, and we got ourselves a Mission to Mercury. And I decided I'm going to put the watch through its paces, and I did. I really put the watch through its paces. I wore it constantly, almost every day for about 6 months, and I truly did use the watch. The one that I wore the most was the Mission to Mercury. I even put a little rubber strap on it because I didn't really care for the NATO strap that it came with. Anyways, bioceramic material. Yes, it's bioceramic. Yes, it feels like you're wearing almost nothing. It is pretty sturdy, but if you scratch it just slightly, it's going to scratch. It is not like a true ceramic material of a Omega MoonWatch. It still feels fairly decent when you're wearing it as far as sturdiness goes. I put it on this poly strap, which was like $30. So I ended up getting the watches from the Swatch store, and I got them for around $270 a pop. And this is what it looks like on the wrist with the poly strap, and it has a fold over clasp, which buckles very nicely. As you can see there, I barely effort, and it just snaps. And I've used this watch. I've used the chronograph on this watch a ton of times, and I've had no issues with it working. I haven't had any issues with a button popping off and flying across the room, because people will say that the button will pop off and fly across the room. Haven't had any issues with that. It wears extremely comfortable. It's 42 millimeters in diameter. It also wears very well as far as the thickness on the wrist. It's not super duper thick, and that has a lot to do with the quartz movement. So even though the little crystal, the dome crystal, does kind of bubble up a little bit. Overall, it feels fairly low profile on the wrist, and you can tweak your wrist all kinds of different ways without having to worry about crunching the watch between your wrist and your forearm, which I tend to do a lot with a lot of my watches, especially the larger watches. It keeps excellent time, and I haven't had any issues as far as reliability goes. So that right there, as far as the quality side of it goes, I'm officially now sold. I'm over to the dark side of it. Now, the quartz movement, I was kind of a little bit afraid that, okay, why don't they use the System 51 movement? But then when I got to wearing it and playing around with it, it's definitely lighter than a Swatch Irony that I've owned with the System 51 movement. So this is definitely much lighter. It almost feels like you're not wearing a watch at all. And all day wear, all day from morning to night, you will be extremely comfortable wearing a MoonSwatch because of that quartz movement. It's so light. Another reason that I kind of thought, well, I don't know if I want to cough up that much money for the MoonSwatch, well, is because of the dial, not the dial itself, I'm sorry, the crystal, right? It's not a hard lex, it's not sapphire crystal, it's straight up plastic, right? And so I was thinking, this thing's gonna scratch in a heartbeat, and it did. I scratched it pretty quickly, and I thought, okay, game over, it's done. But then I found out that you can go to the Swatch store and they will polish it for you. Check this out. Watch this video right here real quick. This great guy at the Swatch store is super nice. He's actually one of my subscribers. I walked in, I told him what I do. He said I could video him repairing the crystal of this exact MoonSwatch right here. Check that out. And not only did he repair it, he told me that's for life. As long as you own the Swatch, you can come in there and they'll repair it for you for free. That is freaking awesome. The batteries, insanely quick change out of a battery, and you can go to the Swatch store and get that done too. If you're nowhere near the Swatch store, I can understand that. And I'll put a link down below here for a little polishing cloth or for some polywatch, which is a material that you can get to polish up the plastic dials or the plastic crystals of these watches. Here is the MoonSwatch Mission to Mars. Pretty cool looking. I do like the coloring of it. Let's put this one on so you can kind of get an idea what the red one looks like on the wrist. Again, the NATO straps are not the most comfortable, but they are very, very easy to use and put on. It's simple Velcro. You just pop the little Velcro tab right through the little clasp here of the strap stay, and then pull it around, Velcro it to your wrist, and it's on, just like that. I just personally didn't really care for the way that it laid on the wrist with the Velcro NATO strap, and so that's why I switched the Mission to Mercury over to a polyurethane strap. But it doesn't look bad, and it even says Speedmaster down here on the bottom side of the NATO strap, and then Swatch on one side and Omega on the other side. So it is pretty cool. The branding is on point. And Swatch did this to kind of beef up their sales. I get it. They wanted to try to take advantage of a brand that they own because they own Omega. Swatch owns a ton of companies, and they wanted to beef up their brand just like they're doing now with Blancpain. I get that the Swatches, the $30 watches, will fly out the door easier than a $3,000, $5,000 Omega. But people aren't clamoring and trying to get themselves a Swatch thinking like, oh, this is going to be something I've always wanted to own. Many people are trying to do that with this Speedmaster or the Seamaster or the Railmaster. They're just not huge on trying to go out there and buying a kitschy little Swatch that has flowers on it or that has a heart on it or all some of the other weird crazy stuff that Swatch tends to do. But when they collaborated with Omega, that was hitting the ball out of the park. When they did this collaboration, they really did solidify their name, and people just wanted it. So I am now slightly on board more now with the MoonSwatch. I think that it is very wearable. It's fun. It's not as expensive in the sense of if I'm getting all day wear out of it every day for a few years, it's not that bad. I think that the price point would have been slightly better, around $149 personally. That's just my opinion. But I think for what they did, for the collaboration, for the stamping of Omega on there, they did their best, and it is a great effort. I don't care for all the new models that are coming out now with all the crazy Snoopy stuff and all that mess. Now they're just trying to money grab. But the original, 9 or whatever it was, I guess how many, right? It was like, yeah, I think it was 9. No, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. It was 11. The original 11 swatches that came out. Those were, I would say, like, that's where they should have stopped. Just left it at that. It would have been fun. But, of course, corporations have to grab that money. Anyways, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Please like and subscribe if you like the video. And stay tuned for the next G-Shock drawing, because I'm going to be doing that very soon. Well, I'm going to be announcing the watch and going over the rules and reviewing the watch and all that crap. You know what I'm going to do. Anyways, Omega MoonSwatch, or Swatch MoonSwatch X Omega, or whatever the crap. I don't know. I dig it. Roland digs it. I didn't think I would dig it, but I do. So, yeah, I guess get one. I don't freaking know. Do what you want to do. It's your money. Have fun. Take care. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.